So, who have I got here with me today?
John Michael Elliott.
Don Burns.
Nice to see you, Don.
Richard Eijo.
Richard, nice to meet you guys. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, no
Thanks for
problem.
having us.
What do you guys do? And
We are, we've been in the real estate business here in Lakeland since, I have been in the real estate business since 2000. Got my real estate license in 2004 here in Lakeland. So selling real estate, and also we have a full service property management company.
what's the name of the company?
Elliott and Eijo Group at S&D Real Estate Services.
How do you spell that?
Elliott or Eijo?
Oh.
Elliott, Elliott, and Eijo, Eijo.
Where does the names come from?
Richard's Cuban descent.
Yeah, my mom and dad are both from Cuba. So I just recently did a ancestry and shows mostly from Spain and Portugal is my family. So
And I'm sorry. What was your full name?
Richard Eijo.
Richard Eijo. Thank you
That's right.
guys so much.
Mhm.
And you said you're originally from Miami?
Grew up, born and raised down in Miami. Moved to Lakeland in 2023, but
No.
no, what am I saying? 2003. And got into real estate in 2004. But I have a background in hospitality and culinary arts. Grew up working in family restaurants, bakeries, and I had a passion for culinary arts since a small kid. I mean, I remember being in elementary school telling people I wanted to be a chef.
Wow.
So, I thought that was going to be my path for the rest of my life. And I decided to make a change. It was a big change. But, I had a lot of experience in working in very fine establishments. I worked for Ritz-Carlton, all kinds of Marriott hotels, Miami Beach and country clubs down in Miami. So I kind of have a foundation in hospitality and in these really fine hotels. And they instill such a high level of hospitality in there from any employee. I mean, from the person that takes out the trash to the person that opens the door to the person that cooks your meals. They really focus on instilling, a high level of customer service. So, I mean, that was hammered into me as a young person. So I was able to, develop the strong work ethic and, just attention to detail. And, sometimes it's a curse, you go out and you go to a restaurant or you go out to go out to an establishment and you see, people doing things that they could do better. But, this is, something that was a passion for me. And I decided to make a change, and I was so all into culinary arts. I was a chef de cuisine at a famous hotel in Miami Beach called the Eden Rock Hotel. I ran their fine dining restaurant for several years, and some other places. But the opportunity, happened to move to Lakeland. I don't talk a lot about myself.
I'm interested.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting story. So, in 2003 is when I decided to make the move. But I had been coming to Lakeland for a couple years before I moved here. My mother moved here from Miami. She had a flower shop down there, and she raised me and my brother. She's a single mother, and she moved here. Bought her first house. John was her realtor.
Yeah.
She bought 4, 5.
Yeah, she bought several houses from me over the year that I was working with, a few years that I was working with her. She purchased several homes, and then introduced me to a lot of her friends that I sold homes to, and it was a great client of mine. So
That's networking.
yeah. So the story goes is I was selling her real estate and doing things, and she was a great client of mine. I remember she had her flower shop. She opened that up, and there was a Valentine's Day that she needed assistance. She didn't have any employees that could help her, but she needed assistance delivering flowers. So she called her realtor friend, John Michael, and said, "Hey, can you help me out?" And I said, "You know what? I'll do that." So I ran around all of town that day delivering flowers for her, and we just became, very friendly with each other. And one day she came to me and said, "Hey, you know what? My son's, down in Miami. I'm living here now. I want him to come up here and get into real estate." I said, "Okay," thinking,
What a shock.
Yeah. Introducing me to to somebody and having me teach them, and I was like, "All right, well, I guess I got some room on my friend bank that I can fill that up." And so I met Richard. Him and I had lunch with him, his mother, and his brother, and we kind of hit it off there. We similar ages. same kind of energy. And so we, he went and got his real estate license. Not that far after that, he moved up here to Lakeland. He was actually still chefing up in Orlando at Norman's, and he decided to get his real estate license. And I had gotten into real estate back in 2000. I had been stealing the spotlight from him.
We're gonna get there.
You know?
We got lots to tell.
That's how you know it's not scripted.
Exactly. So now to get you to where I got into real estate, I was in the computer world. I was in software. I was training people. I was traveling all over the U.S. training people on how to use a certain software that was designed for real estate. It was designed to run their back office, to keep track of all the commissions, keep track of all the sales and everything, and all the numbers, so that you can have all the reports and keep everything in order. That company moved. I moved to Lakeland. I was working remotely at that time. They moved to Tallahassee. They decided to change course with their company, so that I was no longer able to work there. So I had a database in my computer at home of all the real estate companies that were in the whole world, basically, and I pinpointed it down to Lakeland and said, "Hey, where can I go to find a new job?"
Wow.
And so I called the very first one. It was all alphabetical. I called Century 21 AH Realty, and interviewed with them and became their technical director, and then turned into their relocation director. And then from there I met several agents that were in the office. One of them being Mike Hammock, who works over at Keller Williams now.
A legend in the real estate business.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I attribute a lot of my success, and for him to push me into doing what I do now. I attribute most of that success for him driving me to this business. So, but I worked for him. I worked for AH Realty. Then they decided to open up Exit Realty years ago. Him and Bill and Susie Nicholas, they partnered up and opened that company up. So I decided that I was going to go ahead and take a job with him, as working as a personal assistant to him. Now I was in my early 20s at that time, and just had one baby, very young, 1 or 2 years old.
What year was that?
That was back in 2000 is when I first started in the real estate. I probably started working for him. Yeah, in 2002 is when I really started working for him. And then up to 2004 is when January of 2004 is when I got into real estate. And I was pushed out of the nest, by Mike. But he drove me to get my real estate license, literally drove me to get my real estate license. Going to and their traffic was backed up so bad. I remember the story. It was so funny because he was going to drive me there. He's like, "I'm going to get you there." And so we ended up going through traffic on I-4, and you know how bad that traffic is on I-4.
I was there today.
He was driving around on the edge of the medians and stuff to get around people and stuff, just to get me to my real estate test so I wouldn't be late. And thankfully he did that. So I had some good laughs at some of the stories that come out of him and I's relationship. But he was the driving force that got me into it. And then in 2004, I got my real estate license, went out on my own, and just hit the ground running from there. And it was a great time to get into real estate at that time. 2004 was
Things were ramping up.
Big.
Is that when the Countrywide thing started happening?
Countrywide was there.
I remember all of that.
Yeah, and then it got reckless. Real estate got reckless in 2000. All the way to 5 to 7, and 7 was a total meltdown. But that's where kind of in the 2004 time frame is when Richard and I were introduced to each other. So the market was good, things were great. We got introduced to each other. We built the friendship. Started working at the same company. I was kind of mentoring him in the real estate business, and then it started getting on. We didn't work together as a team until a few years later. When the market really hit a downturn, and you see the movie The Big Short.
Oh yeah.
We lived that.
Yep.
On a daily basis, all the short sales that we did. But it got to the point where it was like I was doing some deals at times, and then he was doing some deals at times, and we were kind of feeding off each other. We were working in the same office, facing each other, and I'd see him on the phone working, and then I'd be on the phone working, and he'd be kind of like, "What do I do?" So we decided
Hungry.
Yeah, we were hungry. Yeah, and we had to survive. We had, I had 2 children at that time. And my wife had.
We still have 2 children.
Yeah.
Sounds like they're the same age as mine. Mine was born in 01 and 05.
Mine was 02 and 03,
Yeah.
late 03, early 02 and late 03. So that's kind of.
Did you guys get to the point where you said, okay, in the middle of the 7 or 8 or 9, whenever it was, and we're really good, did you guys say, okay, I'm going back to my art?
That's a great question. I remember, I don't know if I ever told you this, but I remember sitting at my desk in 2008 and Googling chef jobs and like looking what was out there, like what is out there. It's been several years since I was in that business, but I'm like just curious. And I closed my computer. I was like, nope, I'm gonna stop looking because failure is not an option.
That was scary as heck.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, at that time I was a single man. I didn't have any children. I'm married now. I have a beautiful wife and 2 daughters. But at that time it was just me. So I was really fortunate that I didn't have any mouths to feed other than myself. I remember when the real estate market started to tank, and seeing how tight things were. I mean, compared it to how it was just a couple years previous.
Oh yeah.
When
it was a quick.
Yeah, I was quick. I mean, when I jumped in the real estate business, I mean, I hit the ground running, and I was like,
You thought you would live forever
I was
up
at the
there,
top,
didn't you?
man. I was living at the top. It was great. Things were amazing. I mean, my first year in real estate, I was one of the top sales agents in the office. I was gung ho, man. I was happy.
I should have started this 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it stepped up.
I just don't know how. I mean, I was 23 at the time, and I don't know anybody even like trusted me because I didn't know a whole lot about anything. I hadn't lived, those life experiences, but the whole fake it till you make it is true. And I went into appointments, and people trusted me, and I guess they just saw the dedication that I had to to this business, and a gift of God, I guess, that the good Lord gave me to convey what I could do for.
Well, people can read you whether you're saying something or not. If your intention is sincere, if you're not out to just take what they have, if you're there to provide a service, then they're going to know that. They're going to feel that. You're not going to fool them.
So, like John and I, we are so focused on maintaining our reputation. We have a great reputation, and I mean, if you were to Google our company, we have the highest reviews and the most reviews in Lakeland. We're one of the longest running property management companies in town. So we take great pride in that. So reputation is key, and we live and die by that every day. So this is one of our most valuable assets.
Yeah. We say at our weekly meetings, we're only as good as our last review. We can have 300 and some odd great reviews, but if we start to fail, then we're only as good as that. So we want to maintain that.
I'll tell you right
high
now,
level of service.
I've used a service and didn't leave a review. It was good. Then I contacted them back for the service. Service wasn't so good. I left a 3-star review. Within 20 minutes, they knew.
Yeah.
They contacted me. They corrected my issue as a consumer. Provided it, went right back up to 5-star.
Yeah.
Because
that's how it works.
If you get that 2 or that 3, and sometimes that 4,
Well, what one of the things that John and I talk about, and this goes back to my hospitality, restaurant, hotel business that that molded me. I feel, working for Marriott, they just teach you how to deal with problems. And a problem or an issue that you deal with in business is just an excuse to show somebody how good you are or can be. So people are flawed. Nobody's perfect. So if a mistake does happen, it's how you deal with it. Exactly. But that's our focus, is this high level of service and trying to exceed people's expectations.
What are the things?
So Marriott said the way that you deal with a problem is you need to go through these steps, and I call it like the Jedi mind trick. If somebody comes to you with a problem, if you go through the steps of listen, empathize, apologize, and react, if you go through those steps, you will have somebody that comes to you that's hot, eyes bugging out of their head, they're so mad, and by the end of it, they're smiling and saying thank you. So it really truly does work. Somebody has a problem, you say, you know what, I would agree with you. I would also feel, frustrated dealing with that. So, first off, you got to listen. So don't interrupt people. Somebody comes to you with a problem, let them get it out. Sometimes people are quick to be defensive, and there's a time and a place for that. But generally, if you're looking to resolve a problem, that's the first step. So it's just listen, empathize. I'm sorry that this happened to you. I would feel the same way if this happened to me. react. What are you going to do? You know? So if you go through those steps, people oftentimes, forget the discrepancy, the issue, what have you, and really say, wow, these people are awesome. So,
Yeah.
some of the best reviews, that the ones that I pride myself on, are reviews that people give us where they came to us with an issue, and then by the end of it, they're like, not only am I happy, I'm 5-star service happy.
Yeah.
That's the ones you actually want because they're going to tell their friends.
Yes.
They're going to be absolutely. I remember when I was a maintenance man and I repaired dishwashers in restaurants, and I would go into them, and the dishes weren't clean, and people were happening to hollering, and the chefs there, they took charge and they said, "Look, this is the way we're going to do it." And they're very kind, and so I know from the chef's point of view, they're very professional. This is my restaurant. This is my reputation. We're going to do it this way and get it done and get it done quick.
Well, when I grew up in the restaurant world, I had the tail end of old world chefs. So the chefs that were my chefs when I was a cook were the ones that they used to get smacked by their chefs when they messed up. You get a pop on the back of your head, they'll cuss at you or something. And so I had a foot in that world of like being afraid of some of these chefs. You did not want to disappoint them, and if you're going to follow them, you're going to suffer the consequences.
Sure.
So I think that is part of what instilled the work ethic and dedication to the dedication to providing the best service that we can.
I agree. And we're all consumers. On one side, you're the consumer. You may need a house one day. You want to be treated the way a consumer wants to be treated.
Mhm.
And then when you're on this side, you're on the professional side, you want to make sure you're always thinking, now what would I do if I was the consumer?
Yeah,
To
exactly.
make sure.
What would I want? What would I need? What are my expectations?
I agree,
We
100%.
try to exceed those if at all possible.
Yeah.
But getting back into the story of like our progression into this business is like, so back in 2004 we got together as just as workmates, and then around 2005 we decided, all right, the writing was on the wall with the market crashing pretty heavily going into 2006 2007. We said, hey, let's just unite our powers, man. I mean, you're making money here, I'm making money there, we can just make the money together. We split it 50-50 partners. It was kind of the perfect storm at the time, and it's kind of I saw how hard he was working and he saw how hard I was working, so we had to trust in each other to say, hey, let's go into it. Because I've been asked by many other realtors in this the city if how we've done that so far, because they've seen us together for a long time, and how to go about it, and like, hey, I've got this person that I'm thinking about partnering up with, and how did you do this, and how did you what were the pitfalls, what were the positives, and we talked about it. But I mean, there's a huge level of trust in each other. Having a good work ethic for the both of us, has turned out to be such a great blessing in our lives. So getting into that, we going into 2007 when the market really crashed is when we started doing short sales left and
Adapt and overcome.
Yeah.
When you say short sale, that means someone's selling their house really quick to get
Well,
out from under their loan.
What a short sale is basically you're selling it short of what you owe. So you're upside down on the house. Like, so 2007, the prices went down. Everybody was buying homes, so you had this, here's
owe
here's
more
what
than
you
the value
owe.
of it.
Here's what the value is now.
You have to write a check to sell your house.
Wow.
Yeah. So what was happening is people were saying, hey, strategic default, basically going to the bank and saying, hey, listen, my house is not worth what I need to be worth for me to be able to sell it. So I need you to be able to let me out of this loan without affecting me anymore, coming after me for the balance of what's owed. I mean, sometimes it was in anywhere from 10,000 all the way up to hundreds of thousands that the banks were having to write off. I mean, this was.
But when we became experts, it was kind of one of these things where at that time, and I think our entire real estate career, we've always been the people that do what other people don't want to do, and that's what I guess we've been able to carve out our niche. So, like John mentioned, those short sales at that time, other real estate people didn't want to do short sales because you'd have to deal with a bank and a client for months and months to get a sale. And sometimes houses would get foreclosed whilst you're trying to, help somebody short sell a house, because some people were behind on their house. Not everybody was doing strategic default. But the people that they'd call us, they'd be underwater, and they want to sell their house, and we tell them, hey, your house is worth $250,000. Like, but I owe $300,000 and I got to move to Oklahoma. So we would tell them, are you behind in your payments? No, I could afford to make the payments. And for those types of clients, we were able to tell them, well, have you considered maybe renting your house out? And at that time, John and I were doing some property management, but just for a couple clients. My mother had some properties that I did some property management for. John had some clients that we were just, collecting rent, just doing some basic property management.
Yeah.
And as the economy started to tank, and, we were going to listing appointments regularly. I mean, I remember when the market was going bad, we were marketing to expired listings. That was one of the things that we were able
Is
to.
that something that's in the paper that says,
Well, it's on our MLS system where like it's run its course. The house is no longer on the market because the houses were sitting on the market forever.
Long time.
And so that house would come off the market or expire, and we would just knock on the door kind of.
when you say expire, you mean tell me you were aware that it was for sale and now you found out it's not for sale?
It's not for sale any longer with the person that was trying to sell it.
And it didn't change owners.
And it didn't change owners.
Okay.
So we were able to go in and talk to these individuals and say, to get in rewinding just a second is, getting it into their house, trying to sell it as a short sale may have not been an option for some people, because they didn't want to affect their credit in a certain way, or they didn't want to, certain things would prohibit them from doing that. So our other option was to say, hey, we could manage your property as a rental property. Therefore, you can leave town and it solves your problem, and you can have an income coming in, for that house, so that you're not having to short sale or lose it. So, so that's where we found that need at that time to start this business. I looked across at him one day and I said, hey man, I think we're getting into property management. I guess we are. So, and then the very first client that we had for several years. And fun fact about that is many years later that we managed that person's house, that same very first house that we managed, we now own.
Yeah.
Because that person wanted to sell the house, and we just said, hey, that's
You
the very
guys are
first house
first in
we managed.
line.
Yeah, and they said, here's what we're willing to sell it to you for, and we purchased it from them. So it's like a success story for me. It's a good feeling because, like, I know I started out, back in that time when it was tough, and and I started managing that house as a necessity to manage it to bring in that few $100s a month or whatever I was bringing in for that property. To now owning that property as the property owner and still managing it and renting it out. So,
Yeah.
So it's an income now.
Yeah.
I mean, it just shows, investing in real estate, having rental properties is a great investment. And, that property's paid off now. They're darn near paid off.
Wow.
So,
Aren't we in a market where the market's starting to change to where the interest rate has gotten up and the values, I guess, are the values falling? Or
values are they've stagnated a little bit, but they've gone up in the last 2, 3 years. I mean, the prices just skyrocketed in this area, especially here in Florida as a state. But in this particular area, I mean, there's a huge draw to Lakeland.
Is there going to be another one of those where
I've been hearing about that forever.
the prices are high and people change jobs or whatever, and the value is going to drop? Is that getting ready to happen again?
Listen. I just want to talk on.
Let's hear it.
No. If you think about it, I remember when the pandemic started. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, in the story, but when the pandemic started, we were shaking in our boots. We had survived a crazy downturn in the market years previously, and been able to pay our bills, selling and managing real estate. But if a pandemic didn't, take down the real estate market, that just shows the foundation that that's still
made it stronger.
It sounds right.
It's stronger.
It did, but everybody was talking about people not paying their mortgages, not paying their rents, and John and I were like shaking in our boots, like in March of 2020, April of 2020. We were expecting people not to pay their rent, and
Well, they had that federal program where you could not pay it.
yeah. And
CARES
John and
Act.
I were like, we were having meetings, and we were just like, okay, this is the month where people are not going to pay their rent. And then that month started, and like a gigantic percentage of our clients paid their rent. And then it's like, okay, next month's the month. The shoe's going to drop next month. Next month came, same percentage of people paid their rent.
Yeah, we only had very few, and I think that it goes to our screening process that we put in place for our tenants. We can't be perfect. I can judge you based on your background check, your credit check, all that thing, but I can't tell if you're crazy or not.
I wish
You don't
Yeah,
know.
we didn't come up with a test for that.
Yeah. I mean,
That's why our
so-
industry exists, because of all the challenges that exist in managing real estate. and we just use our experience and expertise to navigate these waters for our clients so they can have the best results. And I guess just talking on our stats, I mean, we have a over 99% rental collection rate every month, and we have a less than 1% eviction rate every year. And it speaks to the quality of tenants that we find. But talking on the pandemic, it was a really trying time for us, and we had to again adapt and overcome. So we're in a situation where you can't meet people in person. Us as property managers, one of our duties, if you're a true property manager, you need to do walkthrough inspections. So that's something that we do. We create reports for our clients so they can see what the houses look like. Creating that level of transparency so people feel comfortable that their houses are being cared for.
Yeah, because we have owners that live all over the world, and so for them to be able to have a snapshot of their property and to view it at any given time to see, okay, well, this at this month it looks great. I'm comfortable. It's not just us lip service telling you everything's great, because there's sometimes people will just give you lip service, won't give you the service at all, yes. And then there's a mess to clean up at the end.
I've seen those videos.
Yeah, there's a lot of
that. Doesn't, thankfully, because of our experience, that doesn't happen to us. I mean, not to say it couldn't happen to us, but just we're able to avoid those situations because just
catch them before they get out of hand.
Yeah. Absolutely, but during the pandemic, I remember people would call. They still wanted to rent out their houses, and I was like, well, how am I going to do this if I can't meet with people? So I was like, leave a key under your mat, go out for a drive. I'll come to your house. I'll walk around your house. I'll make a list of, what I think you need to do to get your house ready to rent, tell you what you could rent it for. And we picked up new clients like that. And then we were able to still do our walkthrough inspections. We were doing them via Zoom.
Yeah,
FaceTime.
Yeah, we would Zoom. We would do Zoom calls with our tenants and have them walk around the house and show us the house through video. And then we were just adapting to the situation. And now there's lots of softwares because of the pandemic. It's helped people develop better systems to go in place for remote workers or remote inspections or remote this, remote that. I mean, it's really opened up a lot of people's eyes. It's opened up my eyes to say that, hey, I can have employees that work from home and can be productive and still not have to be in the office every single day. We can have a hybrid of you be in the office sometime and then at home others, just to allow for that comfort.
That's So you guys have property, you guys manage property all over America, the world?
So our service area, we're based in Lakeland. We service all of Polk County, but we do dabble outside of Polk County. We want to stay about no more than a 1-hour drive from Lakeland.
Okay.
I mean, we do get calls from people looking for our services, in areas that we don't manage. And we've been growing our service area, but, we're doing it in a really, I would say, healthy growth rate. We're trying to grow with our company. We started off, it was just John and I, and we wore all the hats. And, I used to do all the walkthrough inspections personally. And John, did all kinds of, bookkeeping and marketing and, I mean, all kinds of things like that. So it's one of those things where, as we've been able to grow, we recognize we hired our very first employee, a lady that worked for us, Barbara Freeman. She was a lady that worked for us for many years and a great gal, and she helped us to, grow our business. So we've hired additional team members. We got a great gal named Julia Padron. She oversees our maintenance department and
leasing department.
Our leasing department.
And Helen Jackson. Yeah. So we have we've got virtual employees now too. I mean, Helen's getting ready to go back to her home state. But she's still going to work for us. She's going to work remotely for us because we found out that it's like, all right, if everyone can be responsible, right, and show up for work, whether it's show up to the desk that's at your house or they show up at the desk that's at the office. If they're doing the job, they're doing the job.
That's right.
The proof's in the pudding. I'm going to know whether or not they're able to, they're taking care of the job because we've got performance indicators that we keep our eyes on, and then we have our weekly meetings. We have employees that we have a few remote employees, one in Mexico, one in Honduras. Another
Buenos Aires,
Argentina, and we're getting ready to bring on another remote employee. So, I mean, basically, most of our people are remote except for the people that have to have the boots on the ground. We've got to be able to meet with the new clients, me and Richard. We've got to be able to do the inspections on the property. So we have a full-time maintenance gentleman that goes in and just reviews the
Walkthrough coordinator.
Walkthrough, yeah,
Full
yeah.
plans, inspection stuff.
Yeah, they do all the inspections on the property, interior, exterior, report back, have those long reports for owners for move-ins and move-outs. Just so the owners feel comfortable and can keep their eyes on things.
Yeah, creating that level of transparency, a lot of our clients really like that because I hear very often about people, they'll call us and they'll say, hey, I got a current property manager, they're not doing a good job, problem. And we'll step in, try and right the ship and ask questions about like walkthroughs or any walkthroughs being done. They're like, no walkthroughs. And I'm just like, it's a big risk when you do that. So, we've been able to develop our protocols to be able to have consistent results. And, like I mentioned about our stats, I mean, that's not an accident. We're very selective on who we rent to. We have a thorough screening process. We're fair to the public as much as we can be. Owners put a lot of trust in us in screening or selecting a tenant. And we know if we were to place the wrong person, it could be, a financial problem for the owner. It could be a time suck for us, which is also a financial loss for us. So it's all of our benefit to have a good quality tenant, move into the property because the process just goes so much smoother, downstream once you do that.
Yeah, it sounds you guys got a really good equation. Just the variables change to equal success.
Mhm.
Just the variables change on a regular basis. It might be an employee, it might be the market, might be something different, but it equals success. A 5-star rating.
Yeah, and it's like we, have serious policies and procedures about things and do things consistently. And that's how you could do the volume. That's how you could scale up. And like I said, we've been growing our team year after year to help, take care of our growing book of our clients that we manage, we take great pride in the service we provide to our owners and to our tenants. Like I mentioned, we give them a nice little welcome gift when they move into our property. We want to start off on a good foot. We know the importance of not only being a good property manager to our own clients, but it's so important, especially in this market, to provide the best service to your renters, your tenants, your residents, whatever you want to call them. We have lots of great reviews from our owners, but as well as our clients. And starting off on that right foot is critical. So
Yeah. I love getting.
That's what pays the
I love
bills.
getting a good review from a tenant because normally you're gonna, in most cases, you're gonna see like we had a conversation earlier about like you leave a bad review, you leave a 3-star review for somebody because they didn't perform the services that they were supposed to perform for you, so it upsets you. And there's a lot of times that the knee-jerk reaction is if you don't get what you want, go leave a 0, 1-star review, 3-star review.
Consumers do.
And not many times do you have a great experience. Like you go and have a good experience at a local restaurant or a store that you'll go in there and say, hey, I'm going to go give them a 5-star review. But so when I see a tenant that gives us a 5-star review, it gives me chill bumps because it's like, man, we're really doing a good job. Because a lot of the times the tenant landlord relationship can be very tumultuous at times, because of you're the middleman between an owner that may not want to do the right thing at times, and you have a tenant that may want you to do something that's outside of the scope of what should be done.
Yeah.
So you have to be that barometer of what's right, what's correct, what's fair, what does the law state. And sometimes we have to be the good guy to somebody and the bad guy to the other.
The hero and the villain at the same time.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah, so it's a juggling act.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're transparent in the way that we do things. I mean, our expectations to our tenants are clearly told to them at the beginning, and establishing a clear understanding of how the relationship will be, what they will expect, and so long as you do that, you'll have the best outcome, I feel.
And do you guys have tenants or clients that things have happened to them beyond their control, and you're able to have that intermediary with the owner to work things out? Let's say they lost their job for a month. Or, I don't know.
We have situations that arise like that, and we've got a heart. We try to we have to act according to the law first and foremost, and then second, we have to abide by what an owner wants us to do. And sometimes, the owner wants us to do something that isn't for the law, so we have to correct them and let them know that that's not the right way to go about it. Or the owner just doesn't want to be as giving or willing to accept certain things. or do certain things to their house to maybe, help a tenant out a little bit. So we just have to be that go-between and we have to juggle. But yeah, there's times where we have tenants that are upset about something and we go to an owner and we say, or they have a situation where, hey, I lost my job. I know the rent's due on this date, can I pay it, towards this date? We go to the owner and say, hey, here's the situation. We get the story, we put it all together, and we make sure that the owner, has all the information to make that decision, and we give them our recommendation on what to do.
Yeah, but in certain circumstances, you have a situation, where a tenant lost their job and they come to you. Somebody may have rented a home, with an 800 credit score and good income, and then all of a sudden something's happened to where they have lost their job and lost the ability to pay their bills. And there are options that are outside of an eviction. And that's our number one goal, is to avoid that situation. I mean, we're not afraid to get there, but we know that there are things that we could do with our experience to help, that individual who's in trouble, and come up with a game plan that they could stay in their house if that's what they want. But we try, and that's our number one option.
Yeah, we don't want to turn over a house, because that's if we have to turn over a house, it's the most expensive time for an owner. For
releasing.
Yeah.
So, and right now, one of the things that we're focused on in 2024 is tenant retention. I mean, I think that's always been a goal of ours, but we see that in the real estate market, the rental market in 2024 is not what it was in 2020. Our average days on market in 2020 were like 7. We put a house on the market, and some days we come into the office, then they'd be somebody standing outside of our door saying, hey, I saw this house came on the market yesterday, and I want to put an application in. And it's like,
wow.
People were just getting beat out left and right trying to get houses. So they thought if they showed up at our office that may help them. And sometimes it did. But the market has changed. It is not like that anymore. So if we could keep the tenant in the home longer, number one, tenants would prefer that if they don't
have to take on the
Nobody
expense of moving.
moves.
Exactly.
I hate moving.
But for a landlord, that's your number one expense. They're generally one of the most expensive times of owning a property is turnover time. So if we can keep the tenants in the property, everybody wins. And that's our focus. If an owner wants to continue to rent the property, we're dealing with like rental increases, and we help our owners keep pace with what the market's doing. But now, in certain situations, you have tenants that may have rented a home last year, and we're looking to do a renewal this year. We're telling owners that you shouldn't do an increase because you're already at market. And if you want to increase somebody's rent beyond what the market will bear, they're going to move.
And then you're going to have all that expense of repainting, possible flooring, all the things that go along with turning over, and which could cost owners thousands of dollars, which we want to avoid. Now, our natural knee-jerk reaction to our taxes and our insurance and stuff going up is, hey, my rent's got to go up, to cover that cost or that added expense. But in this current market, as we sit now today, from last year, the prices for rentals have backslid about 5 to 10% in some areas here in Florida, in Central Florida.
I'm sorry, say that again.
5 to 10% in
They've
that
gone
range.
backwards.
They backslid. The prices, like a $2,000 a month rental, now may be $1,850, $1,900.
Why am I under the assumption that's exactly wrong? I've heard things going up.
They had the prices of homes
Historically, for the last couple of years, the market had gone up, up to 20% a year. But since the real estate market started to slow down once the federal government raised interest rates, you saw folks that had a 3 or 2% mortgage, and they are looking at the landscape of the real estate sales market and saying, do I want to try and sell in this down market? There are some people that maybe have only experienced a really hot real estate market, younger folks that are just getting into their first home, and they're saying, okay, things are slowing down and it's not as easy to sell a house. Some people may even be underwater.
Inflation.
Yeah.
What about the
But rents have the available inventory. Not to interrupt you. The available inventory has gone up substantially, like by tenfold. So with that,
to choose from.
exactly. So we have always been leaders in the way that we market our properties. We take great pride in the way that our homes appear online. So it's critical in this market that you market your home to its fullest. So lots of nice pictures, video walkthrough tours. We do that on all our properties. Market them on all the real estate websites.
Needed.
Exactly. But the way things were back in 2020, you could have a blurry picture that's taken, on a crooked, blurry
in a
picture.
dark room.
Yes, yes.
Where do I sign?
From your cell phone.
And people were,
And people were still knocking on your door. I mean, not that we did that, but we saw that.
Yes,
Some of
sir.
our competitors
those same people that have that same game plan, you're seeing homes sit on the market, 60, 70, 90 days, without them being rented. And, John and I think it's just our motto, adapt and overcome. We saw the writing on the wall. We saw that the inventory was building, and we, recognize it. So, we give our clients like weekly updates every Friday. We'll call them and say, hey, this is the week's activities you received. This is the feedback we received from the rental. And, keeping that temperature of the market has really helped us to open our owner clients' eyes to what the reality of it is. So that way they don't think like some consumers or some owners may have the same mindset that you just said. Things are still really hot. We could overprice it and it'll rent. And 4 years ago it was like that, but now, you got to price it right. You got to market it to its fullest, or else your home will rent.
Yeah, we had a huge, back in 2021, 22 into 23, we had a huge influx of people coming to this area from out of the state. We had New York, California,
Yeah,
Texas.
that's the assumption I'm still under.
My wife works for Publix and has a lot of data that she has, the knowledge of that data, knowing where people come from, how much money they bring into the area. She works for Publix, so Publix has all that
That'd be
information.
pretty cool to have.
And it's nice to have an insight on, where people are coming from. And there's a lot of people coming from those areas. And if you figure you're coming from California to Lakeland, you're over there at a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, 1,500 square feet. How much are you paying a month in California? So now you're able to work remotely for your job, and you're able to come to Florida, nice sunny Florida, and have your freedoms here. And and then also rent a same size house, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500 square foot, whatever it is, for a fraction of the cost. People were paying up for those houses that were coming from those areas and drove the prices up. I mean, a regular rental increase over a standard year is somewhere around 5%, right?
Okay.
Anywhere between the 5 to 10%. We were, the rent year after year was going up over 20% those few years. I mean, our rents went from like $1,100 a month for this style house to almost $2,000 a month for the same house. And so that increase just wasn't, it wasn't able to be sustained. So, I mean, it's still sustained pretty well, but I mean, now it's coming back a little bit saying, hey, listen, some of those people are having to return to work. It's taking people out of this area. Also, there's a lot of apartment buildings that are coming in and being built in this area. A lot of doors that are being added to.
I'm sure you see them driving around town.
Yeah, you go
yeah.
you drive across the parkway, you see
Of course.
those buildings that are going up right across the street from the Lakeside Village. Those are a ton of units.
And it's
There's a lot of
still in the
competition.
pipeline too.
And they're adding, big community pools, nice rec centers in them, coffee bars. Some of them have like my son, he's over in Orlando. They have like a golf simulator in one of theirs.
Oh,
So
wow.
they have like different things that attract people. They have in-house gyms that are attracting people. So, and they're, getting a fair price for those, but that's taking people away from the single family market. So the prices have slid back just a little bit to bring them back in line. And that's what I was saying is like,
Nice.
Yeah, and I in just preparation for this, I was just looking up some stats. I mean, right now, like the most affordable home that is listed on the MLS as of this recording is a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, 520 square feet. It's a manufactured home built in 1931. Like I said, that's $800. It's been on the market 25 days. That means it hasn't even rented at that $800 figure. So that's probably not even. It may even be worth less than that. And then the most expensive property is $11,000
A month?
a month. It's a furnished 3-bedroom, 3-baths, 2,540 square feet. It's in South Lakeland, but that one's still on the market. It's been on the market 26 days. That's what's available right now. So just to give you an idea, I mean, in Lakeland there are 146 active rentals as of today.
in the MLS, and that's
146
total available. And in 2020, 2021, I mean, I am constantly, looking at comparables for my clients, both sale and rent. But I remember in 2020, that number was like 30 or 40. So it's gone up significantly.
That puts it in perspective for me.
Yes.
That helps.
Yeah. So that's where the frenzy was. You moved here from
Now, could
Oklahoma, and you
people
can
want
find a
too much
property.
money be part of the problem?
Yes. Yeah. And I think it's people that are in our industry that maybe have unrealistic expectations, and maybe just tell people what they want to hear, price wise. That's one of our challenges, I think, in this market right now. When I meet with new clients, I tell them what their property could rent for, and some people are like, well, I need another $400 or $500 just to make the difference between what my mortgage is and what I'm going to make in rent. So we're seeing that more and more, and I think with the high interest rates, until that changes, we're going to see the sales market kind of stay the way it is.
Yeah, and it's just educating some of those people too, because I mean, even having a house, I mean, like me and Richard were having lunch today, and I was talking about, the mindset of some people. It's like, hey, you might have to rent your house out, because if you buy your house now, I mean, you're paying, pretty good top dollar, and you're paying a very high interest rate, which is, if you have a, 3% interest rate compared to a 6% interest rate, that's double the interest.
I'm one of the 3-pointers.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
So the problem is people are buying, as investors now, but they're paying a higher percentage, which cuts into what they can make for profit. And in some instances, we were talking about this person like wanting to rent a house, and he was telling me what they wanted, or what they needed to get. And I was like, well, they may be in the hole $100 or $200 each month, but at that same token, it's not really you're in the hole. You're like, there's somebody that's the renter, the tenant, the user that's putting money in their piggy bank. They're taking X amount of dollars every month and putting that in their piggy bank, helping them to pay their mortgage. And then that owner's putting a very minute amount into that same piggy bank to be cashed in at a later date. So you're investing in that real estate. And sometimes, I mean, for many years, I've had a few real estate investments that I bought back in the early 2000s when, and had refinanced them over that, years later. But, I was renting it out, and I was paying out of pocket $100 or $200 a month that I was paying to keep that house up and running and have income coming in. But now that house is paid off. Now I'm reaping the benefits. Right. And back when I had it, that house was worth, $100,000 that I paid for it. Now it's worth $300,000. So I bit the bullet for that $200 a month, for that long time. But I saw the end game in it. I saw that I was investing in it.
Equity.
Yeah,
building
exactly.
your equity.
Building equity. The person's helping me build equity. I didn't have to put a whole lot of money into it every month. It was $100 or $200, which I was like okay with, because I saw what was downfield. I see retirement. I see me being able to maintain that house, and along with others, and having tenants in there that are going to pay that money that I'm going to get 100% of now.
Yeah, and investing in real estate, you can't be short-sighted. I mean, and we saw people that did strategic defaults back in 2008 through 10, because they just said, well, I'm underwater by $50,000, and the bank allowed them, give them the option to do a short sale, because the banks were trying to avoid a foreclosure, because the bank's going to sell the house for what it's worth, and there's really there's a huge expense that the bank has to incur to take your house back. So they weren't letting people short sell their house because they were nice. They were just that was the path of least loss for them. So with that, we saw people that I did a short sale for, and then now I'm looking at those same properties, and if they would have kept those properties, they would be in the plus by $100,000. Oh, yeah. But people were just, people were just kind of short sighted in their decision making, especially the folks that were doing strategic defaults because the opportunity was available to them. But
it wasn't always the smartest thing for people to do, because they just were just so scared. I mean, it's like, when your stocks are going up and down, like you don't want to sell when it's down, and a lot of people their stock in their home went down, and they said, oh, it's just going to keep going down. The sky's falling, Chicken Little, the analogy.
It was scary. I mean, it was really scary.
But I was underwater at one point with the houses that I had back in that time, because that's when I started investing. And I just rode the wave out, the ebb and flow. I mean, and it receded, and then it came back, and it came back way stronger.
If you've got a fixed interest rate, why do we care about the value? Like right now, you can tell me my house is worth $1. I agreed to pay my mortgage. I don't care if it's $1 million or $1.
It's only a loss when you sell.
Yeah.
So
only loss when you sell.
There's people that are just fixated on going on Zillow and finding out what their property's worth, and they lose sleep over it. Like, are you selling it tomorrow? No, but it went down $5,000 from what I paid for it. I'm like, well,
doesn't it save them tax money to pay property taxes, like,
Potentially.
make my house worth $1, please.
Yeah.
Please make it $1.
Exactly.
Because the tax would be nil.
Yeah, yeah.
I've already locked in my.
And you got your
I'm
locked in
floating
living
until I make
expense.
last payment.
Yeah, and unfortunately, taxes have gone up. I mean, one of the reasons why my family moved to Lakeland, from Miami was the affordability of it. Down there, everything was so expensive, and it's even more expensive now.
I've heard.
But taxes were affordable, real estate was affordable, and that was one of the major drivers to people to move here. I mean, I remember in 2008, or even before the market started to go down. I mean, I was working with so many out of town buyers. I mean, I'm bilingual, so I had lots of Spanish speaking clients that were looking to invest here in Lakeland.
Which makes me bilingual now.
Yeah, John's
Yeah.
bilingual too. I'm really good at computers because John's really good at computers.
Fantastic. Yeah.
You know what? I mean, together we're really unstoppable, I feel. So.
Sorry.
No,
I just threw a little quip in your.
Well, it's nice to see because people have asked me to partner through the years, to partner with this, partner with that. And I've always said to myself, you know what? A partnership, to me, I'm nuts. I've never had a partner because I've never found that one. They should be 95, 96, 97% agree on everything. I mean, absolutely everything.
I don't know.
2 or 3% different. But when it's 50%, I think we should go this way. You're not a partner.
Yeah, it's
Well,
a
Yeah,
marriage.
but you
It's a
guys are getting
marriage.
along. You guys are getting along 95, 96. I'm like, this is a partnership.
Yeah, it's a marriage. We've been married. We've been as married as almost as long as.
we own real estate together, so we're pretty. We're
Yeah.
very tight together.
I call my work wife.
One more thing, question. What about this private equity? These private equity firms are coming in. Are they?
They were. Back in 2022, it was a record year for us sales wise. I mean, we closed over 60 transactions that year. And, I said I was doing real estate almost like with a wood chipper. I was just getting deals, just throwing them inside the wood chipper, and money was coming out the other end. It was so many transactions. And I would put a listing on the market, and within hours, I would be receiving an offer from these hedge fund companies. And, it was really difficult for, owner occupants to compete against these cash buyers. But, in recent years, there's been a serious downturn, or the amount of investors has really tapered off. The only investors that I get contacted, there's always these investors out there that'll send you these low ball offers. You put a listing on the market and you get like a $80,000 offer. Like it's computer generated, it seems, and probably is.
Sure.
And
It's a waste of our time.
it's a huge waste of our time. But those cash buyers that were once there, that were bidding over and above list price, I've not seen it.
Could they be going a different route because they know you're there?
The thing is, it's just the outlook currently is a little uncertain. So people have cooled off some, with the backslide, like John said, in the rental prices, the rental income prices. They're saying, well, maybe we're kind of heavy in this avenue or this types of investment, so they're not buying at that same rate that they were.
Yeah, they're investing elsewhere. I mean, real estate's great at times. I mean, it's one of the best investments you can ever make in your investment portfolio.
Mhm.
But there's time and place for it, and it's because of the some of the other factors. It's slowed it down a little bit, at least that we've seen, here in this area. That doesn't mean that those companies aren't still doing it. I mean,
It's a good time to buy a house if you're an owner occupant compared to how things were over the last 4 years. What a lot of experts are saying is you want to buy now where it's not as competitive as it was. Rates are higher. They're expecting rates to come down here soon. I mean, they were projecting rates to go down the first quarter of 2024, and that they went up. But things are still looking like rates are going to be coming down, hopefully by the end of next year. But if you could buy something now, pay the higher rate, and then once interest rates come down, you could refinance into a more affordable.
It's the date the rate theme that's been going around. You date the rate, you marry the house.
Marry the house, date the rate.
Yeah.
I've never met or heard. Now, no offense to you guys. I've never heard or heard a real estate agent say this is a bad time to buy. They always say now's a good time to buy.
A bad time to buy.
No, I think for an investor, you have more options than you did 2 years ago, right? You're not having to do those bid over asking price offers.
I
Thankfully,
remember, yeah.
that's not happening anymore. I mean, and maybe in certain price points, if you're like have a $220,000 house in a really dynamite area, that's a really hot price point, and you may get multiple offers. But even then, it's like, if it's over asking prices, maybe by a little, or to still come in at full price.
I mean, and just in these big companies, they're in the investment mindset, and they're looking to make the most money off the money that they
Yeah,
have.
they don't have the long term. They're
Yeah.
Sure.
And as a homeowner, as a end user, consumer like yourself, purchasing real estate right now and holding on to it and getting in while the prices are where they're at, because historically we know what happens to the prices. They're always going to be going up, and it's just that maybe the prices are going up faster somewhere else in other markets at this moment for those investors.
Central Florida has
Not
always
even
been
the market isn't like the real estate market, but like other money markets.
Yeah.
For them to make money.
Yeah, I mean, we get calls every day from people, looking to hire us to manage their property, and I would say, one of the biggest clientele that we're getting right now is, we call them accidental landlords, and these are folks, owners that for one reason or another they need to rent out their home because they got to move to Oklahoma, or they may want to move back into it. They have a 3% or 2% mortgage that they don't want to part with, and they say, well, I'll let my tenants pay off that place and have a great income. So that's probably our biggest percentage of new clients these days. And, we're just doing the best that we can to educate these folks so that way they can have the best outcome.
Trying to figure out why Oklahoma is so popular with you today.
Oklahoma's okay.
My brother, I got a brother, my youngest brother moved to Oklahoma like a year and a half ago. He went to Oklahoma City and he loves it. It must be the market or something.
Well,
I don't know why either.
I don't know. I'm just such a fan of Lakeland, and I wouldn't live anywhere else. I grew up in an international city down in Miami, and I just love this town. Like I said, I met my wife here. My daughter was born in Lakeland Hospital. I really love this town. I mean, one of my hobbies, I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Been doing it for 8 years now. Yeah, I train with Fabio Neves here in Lakeland. And, I'm just so lucky to have, a world-class jiu-jitsu gym here in town to help, keep me fit and sane. But
There's good people there too.
yeah,
I'm big UFC.
Yeah,
Big
time.
I took martial arts as a kid. My son's now he's over here at Cho's martial arts.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
How old is he?
I love it. 22.
22. You still come down to Fabio's and try jiu-jitsu. I mean,
Where is that?
this is off Creative Drive,
Right across from our house.
Oh, okay.
South Lakeland.
Okay.
Yeah, down that street. I
Yeah,
I was in martial arts too when I was young.
He's not a fighter. He's taking the self-defense.
We get all kinds of folks that come there, from housewives to policemen that come there, and just I started training jiu-jitsu. I was overweight. I was just not happy with the way that I was feeling physically, and just decided to give it a try. I loved UFC and listening to the Joe Rogan podcast.
Oh,
and
yeah, of
here to
course.
talk about jiu-jitsu, and I dabbled in MMA years ago, but I really wanted to learn gi jiu-jitsu. So I've been doing that for the last 8 years, and I'm just like, it's totally in that
It's a
world.
lifelong
I love it.
that you learn.
But this is such a great game. Going back to what you're saying, you live in Lakeland. This is such a great community.
Yes.
I absolutely love Lakeland as well. Lakeland is my hometown. I mean, I grew up in different places, but this is my hometown. This is
Yeah.
this is where my roots are. This is where my children were born.
We rep Lakeland. I go on trips. I mean, John and I, one of our hobbies, we like to travel. So, you go around the world and people ask you where you're from. I say Lakeland, Florida. And I'm so proud to say that, because I don't say Miami. I say
agree.
Lakeland, Florida.
I tell you just a real quick funny story. Okay. I was raised in Hamilton, Ohio, just north of Cincinnati. Moved here. Long story short, I met my wife in Ybor City in a bar. She's from Plant City. She's a Plant City girl. And we had an apartment in Plant City. I love Plant City.
Mhm.
And for 6 months, we looked for a house. Put a bid on 2 different houses. Didn't get them. And she kept saying, Donnie, I've been here. Let's go try Lakeland. And I said, babe, I don't like Lakeland. I don't want to go to Lakeland. Because one of my service areas was the churches over here. I had a couple restaurants, the Texas Cattle. I worked on their dishwashers. And I did not like coming over here to Lakeland. It was out of my way. Long story short, I am Lakeland.
Yeah. This
I
is
was so wrong. Oh, I didn't tell you. The day we looked for the house, the day my wife convinced me to come to Lakeland, we found the house The guy had it for sale by owner. We knocked on his door, and he said, "Yeah, I'll sell it to you." We went over to Office Depot. We bought the preset thing. We signed it right there the day we came over here. Found it. Well, I had been in it ever since.
That's great.
Wow.
That's great. That's a great story.
Yeah, I mean,
John,
John,
community, you've been around this community now
Yeah.
for how long? So,
03.
yeah. So, I mean, this is a great community.
It's the best.
yeah, when I moved here, I literally moved here and knew that I was getting into real estate, and I really didn't know a whole lot about Lakeland. And this was before the advent of GPS and iPhones and
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we were printing out MapQuest.
print out maps, you know what I mean, with people. So I saw the evolution of the Lakeland, but just the technology in our industry has really changed. So we could be, I mean, before we were faxing contracts to people to have them print them out and sign it, you know what I mean?
Driving to their houses on a regular basis.
You know,
to
that
get
reminds me,
stuff
last
signed.
time
Not
I
anymore.
did refi in like 18. And before that, the guy would come out and he'd put his tripod out
Yeah, yeah,
and he'd measure and he'd put in the little flags.
yeah.
Service.
The last time in 18, he'd come in with this freaking pole on a satellite. And I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "It's talking to the satellite."
GPS
So it
coordinates,
was,
yeah.
the coordination was to the inch or
Yeah.
whatever. I was like, "Holy Toledo."
Yeah, technology is amazing.
It
Yeah,
is.
you look at ChatGPT and all the stuff that's going on with that. And we're starting to use that kind of stuff in our industry.
What's the future, man?
Well, I mean, talking in the future, now in July, there's going to be some changes coming to the real estate world where there's not going to be offers of compensation on the MLS. So right now, when you have a property listed on the MLS, you list, what percentage commission you're offering to the other realtor, and that way, when they're showing it to their client, they know what they stand to make, and that commission is paid for by the seller as part of the seller's closing cost. But things are changing now, so they're making it to where we cannot offer that amount listed on the MLS anymore. So now buyers, realtors are going to have to negotiate their commissions either where the sellers are going to, where they're going to either negotiate to where the sellers pay the commission, or they're going to negotiate to where the buyers pay the commission now. So there's a lot of unknowns that are going to be happening in the real estate world.
I'm sorry.
Tradition.
In layman terms, I remember a buyer and a seller used to get like 3% each. So they get 7% and they split it. Each going to 3. So now you're saying the buyer and the seller, only the seller has
Yeah, you hire me to be your realtor. I'm going
to sell my home. Okay.
Yes. So, right now, until July, you would say like 7%, like you mentioned, it would be split, or however it's cut up between the listing agent and the buyer's agent. That's not going to be the case anymore. So, you're going to hire me as your realtor, and I'm going to say that you're going to pay me X amount of commission. And we also have to either expect for the buyer's commission to be paid for now by the buyer. That's
Wow.
that's
Option
one
one.
possibility.
Or potential of as an offer to incentivize a buyer to come buy from you. You can incentivize by saying, "Hey, I'm willing to pay up to a certain percentage or a certain dollar amount towards the buyer's commissions that they have to pay." Now the buyers are going to have to pay their own commissions basically to real estate agents. So as before, as a buyer, you would go out buy a house. You weren't paying the commission. You were paying it in the purchase price of the house, really, because the seller was getting what they wanted. But now there's coming a point where it's like, hey, as an agent going to show you homes, I'm going to have to negotiate with you before we go see homes, that there's a certain percentage I'm expecting to receive from this deal, or a certain dollar amount that I'm supposed to receive from this deal for doing business for you and with you. And then that expectation is that if the seller is willing to pay a portion or all of it, that's great. But if not, then the buyer, the end consumer, has to find a way to,
I don't know if that's going to be good for the housing market.
So
or not.
nobody knows what's going to happen?
Well, there's two things that we know. The offers of compensation are not going to be allowed to be listed on the MLS anymore, right? So we're not going to be able to offer what the buyer's realtor's commission will be. That will be taken off. And then the second thing, if you're going to work with a realtor, you have to. They're going to make you sign what's called a buyer brokerage agreement, and it just basically says that you're going to work with this specific realtor for X amount of time. It could be for one showing, or it could be for a year. And the terms of payment are going to be explained on that buyer brokerage agreement. And this is for our area uncommon. This is happening in different parts of the U.S. historically, for years. But just in our market, there's going to be a big shift in how things are done. And like I mentioned before, I said we've been able to adapt and overcome. So I'm just waiting to see how.
So
this
the
all
buyer
shakes out.
agent, are there going to be less buyer agents?
Yes, I think
potentially, because I mean, it's all dependent upon
possible.
You're just gonna have to be a better,
Negotiation.
you're just gonna have to be a better negotiator in this
Yeah.
business, you know, and understand your worth and be able to present your worth to that consumer, that buyer, to be able to, you know, have them trust to work with just you solely, because before, if you didn't have a buyer's brokerage agreement, you as the buyer could walk into this house and say, hey, I really like this house, I want to buy it. Now you're contracted with me to basically work with me for whatever period of time we agree upon, and then I'm expected that I'm going to be receiving compensation in some form or of some way that we agree upon. So we have to negotiate all that up front, as opposed to you just going around and saying, hey, John, I'd like to see this house. Hey, Richard, I'd like to see this house. And then you just go around realtor to realtor and shop around and just find something, you know, on your own. You know, if you don't have a buyer brokerage agreement, that's fine. You can do that. But you know, then you don't have that representation. You know, that person that's got your back, that's learning what you're wanting.
I'm not a huge fan of this change. I mean, I think that there's going to be some winners and losers in this, and I think that the consumer and the willingness to protect the consumer, I think that the buyer side of the transaction, I think is going to suffer. You know, most buyers these days just have enough money for the down payment and maybe some closing costs, and some buyers, they want to finance in their closing costs. So now you're having to contend with also having to pay a realtor commission.
Yeah,
so
and be able to finance your closing costs, the house has to appraise at that. So if the house doesn't appraise at or above the amount that you need to close the whole transaction, you can't do it, right? Or you're gonna have to, you know, beg, borrow, and steal for you know, for that.
People that have money, I don't think it's going to affect them. I mean, I think there's probably certain price points that it's not going to be such a problem. But you know, I think that entry level price point, I think, is going to even be harder to get into.
The regulations came in for a reason, right?
Yeah,
They're trying to push somebody out.
Well, there was a big lawsuit that took
Class
place,
action lawsuit.
a big giant class action lawsuit where you know, somebody sued various real estate companies, and they said that it's not fair to have the seller pay a buyer's commission. If it's technical commission, it should be paid for by the buyer. So
okay.
you know, and they won, and the National Association of Realtors basically conceded that they were right, and that in this lawsuit they had to pay out a huge amount of money, but it settled it so that way no other lawsuits can be brought upon other smaller real estate companies. So that issue has been taken care of. They can't sue. You know, it's pretty much, I guess, settled at this point. So we'll just see how things are going to shake out.
Change the way we
exciting.
do business. Yeah, it's changing the way we do business. You're
Forward
gonna have to be a better negotiator in this business. You know, especially if you're working with buyers, because I mean, you know, you've just got to do that. You just got to negotiate with
That's
them.
not funny. I just thought of, you're going to get a lot of car salesmen coming to the real estate market, start selling, because they're good negotiators.
I mean, yeah, I mean, this is a change that, you know, is really worrying a lot of people in the real estate industry, and you know, that's why it's important to work at a good real estate company, you know, where they're going to be able to have your back and help, you know, walk you through this process. And where we have our license at S&D Real Estate, they, you know, are really focusing on, you know, getting us prepared for, I think tomorrow they're having a big training on this situation.
Trainings of that.
Do you guys do agency as well, or just the property management?
We do both.
You do both. Okay, it's a good thing you said that.
Yes. So, I mean, I think, you know, right now, John and I are focused on, you know, all aspects of real estate, but it seems in this market, you know, our property management division is just growing and growing. There's a lot more people that need our services. And unfortunately, in our industry, the bar for service is pretty low. We hear a lot of people, they'll call me looking to switch property management companies because maybe they have a property management company that's in a different part of Florida. And they're like, I can't reach these people. They never call me back. There's all kinds of problems. Whereas we're boots on the ground here, and you know,
and this is like before you asked, like,
standards.
you know, do we cover the state, the world, whatever? We cover this area, and for good reason, is because we have all of our contacts in this area. To be able to do a good, thorough job for our clients, we have to have good vendors and boots on the ground, and be able to access those properties, you know, in a very timely manner. If the need arises. So we don't want to branch out any further than we are
effective.
Yeah.
No, I'm confident you guys are professional and the ones to be a property manager. I did my research, obviously, before this interview.
Yeah.
You guys are fantastic.
Thank
Even
you.
better in person.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
No, we
Thank you guys for your time. What's the best way to get in contact with you guys?
You can definitely call our office at 863-333-5161, or you can visit our website, mylakelandhome.com. Came up with that years ago. I love that website. Just My Lakeland Home.
You can't lose when you got the word Lakeland in there.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that.
Yeah.
I agree.
You guys have a fantastic day. God
All right,
bless.
you as well.
Awesome.
Thank you so
Appreciate it.
much.